What's up, everyone? It's Roos. I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome back to the Injectable Sarms series. So I have switched to Inject S23 over lgd. As you can see, my face is sucked in. And I pretty much have the baseline, tub weight that I want to start chipping away at this point. I'm gonna step on the scale. So I just stepped on the scale. I'm 248 with shoes on, so I'm saying probably 242, 243. And yeah, I feel much better, obviously, with the tub off, but I'm very happy that I sat up here because yeah, I'm going to be power building as the CNS continues to heal. And I wanted to show that basically, if you want to get strong, you kind of should probably get a little fat, and that's kind of what I did because, I think powerlifters, most of them, again, there are elite powerlifters that are shredded, right? But most of them, they do put on some tub weight to make the numbers go up, and that's what I was chasing, strength volume. So I put on some tub weight. Now it's at the point where I have enough strength volume that I can actually start to regress back down into a good body composition that is marketable on meta, right? I appreciate everyone putting up with me doing the, fat, guru talk. I should have called it fat guru talk, right? That was fucking funny. But at the same time, I do want to look the part. And that's pretty much my goal with these next 6 months. I think 6 months, I want to have an apex predator physique mentally. That's the big key is I'm trying to pull the bipolar mental frequency out of it. I think I will name this series Red Nose Russo, and it's going to basically showcase how I built the base of my training to the point of the old Injectable Sarms Cycle that I always throw up. So I always throw that up because I built this crazy strength volume base, and I was essentially training 7 days a week. I was able to recover ridiculously fast. You've all heard me harp on this bullshit before, but the point I'm making is that set point on my CNS could be saved, and I could go into bodybuilding, and I could go into more longevity training with the frequency I was holding every day, meaning the strength base, as long as you do a couple things to maintain it, it stays up there. Problem with me right now, I'm massive at 250, 240, and I don't have anywhere near the strength base of the last time I was at this weight. And that is what is giving me the mind fuck that has me in this predicament where, number one, I have gyno, right? So I don't really want to see, when you have a physique and you're lean, let's say me at 220, you are going to just look at your gyno every day. I don't want to do a surgery and have to rebuild my central nervous system frequency again because I thought it was going to be easy the first gyno surgery, and it was not. It was not. The surgery, I went in blind thinking that surgery was going to be easy, right? So that's kind of where I'm at. I did want to showcase that I switched to sustanon as the base, so I have a 3 ester test injecting under it. I'm not really doing it that strategically, but it is there to create multiple peaks and valleys of testosterone a day, aka the propionate is peaking each day, so I'm getting a mental spike each day of the testosterone while the other esters are holding it below. So that's going to keep my DHT going and everything. But what I would say is the S23 is actually going to cause the most extreme change in my basal metabolic rate. It is going to cut me up as I come down, and it will prep my body to be able to absorb a traditional steroid cycle later in this channel. So yeah, I want to do this exotic cycle to create the central nervous system, and I wanted to showcase essentially the way you would want to build a strength base that can be used your entire life. It's the same thing with wrestling. Because I've wrestled, I've had the shit kicked out of me so many times, and I've had to reverberate back. That has stuck with me my whole life. That's why I always recommend, if you have children, to put them in wrestling or combat sports where they get tossed around. And they have to dust themselves off, because I've already had to do that, and that has stuck with me my whole life. With this fucking powerlifting shit, I have to get back up to the same strength volume I was at, of being able to shoulder press 120-pound dumbbells and do all this crazy stuff I wanted to do my entire life. I don't want to be like progressively weaker personally to maintain longevity. I think Mike O'Hearn is a great example, where he's talking about tendon, ligament, and his like ability to maintain inclining 405 into old age. I 100% agree with him. He's dead on the money with that. And I wanted to showcase my way I did it, which was more like red-nosed pitbull style, which is like, I just had so much electricity built from that injectable SARM cycles that I carried through for a very long time, to where I could back off in the gym, but I still locked in red nose for those couple months and got to that. And once I was at that, I could maintain that with less. And that's what I think people misconceptualize with steroids, is that they're not chasing that crazy thing where it's like they do that, they train volume, they train fluff, that's fine. But as far as like cognitive, mental, mood, sharpness, aggression, I think every male, if I could snap my finger and a male trained a strength CNS and boom, it instantly popped on, and then I snapped and I turned it off, he would want me to turn it back on versus broccoli hair training every day. It's like, you should be in there to bring your pain currency and then transport it onto your body. When I walk around, people know the amount of pain I have from my body. They don't know the original size I was, but this is a wearable showcase of my pain, of my ability to tolerate and transmutate pain, of my ability to discipline myself each day to move through that pain. And that is how you should view the gym. You should never view the gym, in my mind, as this social outing event. You should go socialize at a bar or a club, where we're all about socializing, right? We're all about getting together, we're all about being frisky, flirtatious, whatever. In the gym, we need to focus on actually moving your mind state up, creating a new frequency each time, experimenting around mentally in the gym while you're training. The stimulus is just the weights, right? You're stimulating your spirit in there. And what you're witnessing me is, I want to create the red nose spirit, actually, which I've done in the past. It's just not fun. And I wanted to actually showcase the ridiculous training I'm going to do, and I will need a cameraman. But that's the plan. I did switch off Inject LGD. There's no more Inject yk11 because I'm beginning to train really hard now. And I think the LGD yk11 played a role in me being back at this size, very maintainable. This is after leg day, so I am very flat, and I will be trying to post as much as I can moving forward with the Red Nose Russo vlogs.
All right, I've decided to do my story time before I go to the gym. I am doing an ASMR sip of Gorilla Mode White Gummy Bear. I am very impressed by all the flavoring systems of Gorilla Mine. It is not easy to mask this amount of ingredients and make me want to reconsume the product. I definitely think White Gummy Bear, I've already tested it, it's not my first one, is an extremely smooth flavor, but there's obviously, fitting to the name, you know, there's no tang at the end. It goes down very smooth, very easy. And overall, the ingredients are actually dosed at what you would want to get for the cost of the product. Gorilla Mode has stood the test of time. I'm looking forward to trying the blue raspberry nitric, as I am literally on s23 Red. I don't want to be messing up my blood pressure anymore, and I will be going on to nitric with just coffee, and that's how I used to do it. So Gorilla Mode, coupon code Russo. I wanted to give the story of my first, I'd say my second most serious crash out. And I see this a lot with what's currently going on with crash out recoveries. I wanted to speak on my first dog, Bane. So I have a few pictures. I don't really want to make this like heavy or sentimental or anything. I just wanted to discuss the energy I'm pulling for this series, Red Nose Russo, is I am going into the past and picking scenes, emotional frequencies that I will be pulling on in the gym. And I feel like that's where I have a different perspective about a male's feminine than other males, right? Because I enjoy looking at things I already overcame and remembering the frequency state I was in and pulling on it later. And that's what I think is a big, misconception with therapy, with emotions and everything, and you guys seeing me come out of the storm, is that is an authentic achievement of transmutating pain that I can pull on later. Now, I don't need to pull on what I just got through. I want to make this more sentimental on, dedicating it to the dog that personally changed me. It changed me. So I have his dog tag on. He was my first American bully. So everyone has seen Ghost and Cairo on the channel, but my first American bully was named Bane. And it was when I just moved out of my parents' house. I always wanted my own dog to practice fatherhood. So I think dogs are man's best friend. I didn't make that up. And I think dogs teach you responsibility, discipline, and overall raw masculine energy exchange. And it's kind of funny how they say, the dogs always look like their owners and everyone picks a different dog and the frequency blends with the individual and everything. So I decided I wanted an American bully because I love pits and I have a pit, Cairo, now, but I wanted something a little more mellow and a little more, laid back. And that's kind of how Ghost is. Ghost is a real American bully and he's a couch potato. So I wanted something along those lines, and I decided to pick a American bully breeder in Atlanta, Georgia, and I wanted to showcase the dog on the channel, the dog on my social media, and attach it to my brand. And I wanted to practice fatherhood because I think fatherhood is a whole ordeal that a lot of males need to think of as an evolution in my mind, to be able to at least look themselves in the mirror each day and be like, even though I don't want kids, if I had a kid, I would be completely coherent and sharp enough to take care of this kid each day. If I'm not at this level, I'm fucking lacking. And I feel like you got to get to that pretty quickly in your early 20s if you want to keep up. I mean, nobody wants to keep up no more. You see everyone not doing anything these days, but I think a dog is one of the best ways to keep yourself up each day as a male, because when I come home, no matter what bipolar, crazy, yo-yo, up, down I'm in, Ghosto is Mr. Dopamine, and he brings authentic, real happiness. If I had all this stuff going on, when I come home to my dog loves me, There's no switch up on my fucking dog. My dogs love me, right? And that is what I think a lot of males, it stinks, right? It stinks that a lot of males, I feel like, miss out on their first dog, and that would help them, number one, be more attractive towards women. They see you're taking care of a fucking dog. They see you're about taking care of a dog. You're not using your dog as this status symbol, even though it's going to be that inherently. You're showcasing that you're taking care of something each day, you're micromanaging something each day, and you're nurturing. You're nurturing. A male nurtures. A male has to learn how to nurture. If you want to learn how to socialize, nurturing somebody in a generalization sense, you need to do. Otherwise, you're either not communicating, you're doing like NPC, like dialogue talk, or you're narcissist talk, right? The nurturing always has to come in there. And I think the dogs have taught me the most about nurturing. So when I got Bane, he came to me in a van and was covered in puke. completely sick when I got him, and he was a little goofball right off the bat, little goofball. So this was inherently one of the biggest, with my bipolar, frequency highs I had in my current path, from me wanting my own dog for a very long time. I basically packed up my stuff, moved out of my parents, and immediately started looking for a dog. So my authentic achievement of getting Bane was extremely high. I then got caught up in the social media game of having my mind scrambled by trying to keep up with what meta is going to be at that time. I really wanted to see myself build a brand that I would look up to and that I would see progression with. So right off the bat, Bane was not allowed in my apartment because he was a pit bull. So I argued with the apartment managers. I actually kind of said well, they have this dog and that dog, and they may or may not have drove by my apartment to try and catch me with the dog and all that stuff. So I decided to keep my dog at my girlfriend's sister's house. So I would have to drive a legitimate 25 long highway minutes on top of my crazy sporadic entrepreneurial day to feed and take my dog out and see my dog. So right there, I had a path placed to me where it showcases the pain of me not being connected to my dog as much as I want to all the time, and me showcasing to myself that, I do want my dog with me all the time. It would be horrible if I had a child and I wasn't able to see my child all the time. I felt like I was constantly having to drive and foster my own dog at my girlfriend's sister's house, which I'm very blessed that she had a fenced in yard and she took him in, because I could not find an apartment at the time that would take the attack breed. Bane was a complete goofball. He's the goofiest dog I've probably ever interacted with. I'm gonna be honest. He's extremely goofy, extremely funny. Half the time he would sleep upside down and stuff. And he was always a goofy guy. He was just a goofy guy, and I wanted to be with him all the time. As time progressed with Bane, I noticed that he was constantly drinking water. And I started getting concerned. However, I just ignored it. Eventually, I got fed up with the apartments, and I got my own house to let me have my dog. This is probably one of the highlights of my early 20s, was when I got my first little trap house in Aliquippa, and I was able to be with my dog all day. I had a very nice breakfast spot. My autistic bodybuilding routine was perfecto, and I got authentic energy with running Bane each day. This is when I was still trying to maintain, the actual running status. I have completely given up the running status at this point, but that was when I was still clinging on to all the running build-up I've done over the years, and I would run with Bane all the time, and he would beat me. He was like a cheetah. He would always beat me. He would always push me all the time. I totally got the connection of the dog, and while all my other friends were, losing their mind at college, doing the college experience, I felt like my frequency was getting stronger with my dog, and obviously my girlfriend by my side. And yeah, this is where it got weird. So as I got more and more into social media, I got more and more frantic on creating tons of content, trying to keep up with what everyone's doing, and really focused on trying to win the game. Over time, I started to treat my dog as more of a status object in my mind than what started out. And that is where I see horrible things about myself that I wish I could change, but I can't. I had to learn from the pain. I had to move through the pain. I wanted my dog to be a certain weight and decided to give my dog a supplement, a muscle building supplement. And I was going to do that along for a channel funny thing where I'm giving my dog a supplement and we're going along. I believe that I initiated onset of kidney failure with my dog. However, every woman around me is guarding my energy from this, right? When this situation goes down. So we don't know, because he would drink shit tons of water all the time. He was the runt of the litter. By runt, I mean he was the last pick of the litter, and he always kind of seemed to have health problems. He seemed to be a bit of a fighter, but I definitely do take responsibility in this video for giving him a supplement that could damage his kidneys. The minute it happened, I had an epiphany event with myself where I thought I was unfit to be a father. I thought I was stupid. I thought my IQ was absolutely pathetic that I would do that to my dog sheerly for social media status. I immediately started ripping my own ego to shreds because I don't need other people to rip my ego to shreds. And I begin to crash very hard as my dog is entering kidney dialysis treatment, where I get to watch him slowly pass. This is where it's important to understand emotions are frequencies that can be bent and twisted. And I do think ignoring these emotions, I may not have been here. I decided to face the emotions, which was rough, but this is how I got through it. So as Bane progressed downward, it got to a point where this dog that brought so much joy into my life, it moved me as a male so far, so rapidly, was now turning me against myself viciously, right? I was really fixated on trying to save him, and my girlfriend is a mother hen and she's watching her child pass. This was not good with all the entrepreneurial shit I had going on, and the fact I was trying to be a bodybuilder super disciplined, and the fact I was ignoring my parents, going away from studying computers into doing this online social media game. It was a lot on me, right? It got to a point where I was injecting fluids in him every day, just sitting with him, literally boiling in a level 13 fucking mania, right? And if you are interacting with me around my ability to control my emotions that I'm born with from being from a ginger family, it's very problematic, because you should be looking at me to understand your ability to initiate frequencies at lower levels before you look at the crazy McGregor levels some individuals are born with to hit, right? As it progressed, we decided to reach out to a vet hospital. This is where the game of the vet hospital and the prying on the heartstrings comes into play, on the extreme amount of money to do treatment to prolong his suffering life, or do I put down my dog that's only a year old? I put down my dog, and I don't want to say I put down the dog, but it was one of those situations where I was at such a utter breaking point that it was unbearable daily. And for me to hold this heat and take it to the gym and transmutate it into energy was my saving grace. There was no reasoning or point to talk about the situation to a therapist in my mind. There was no way, besides the women protecting my energy that were close to me, there was nothing that I could do other than push through the pain, face the pain, but more importantly, transmutate and twist the frequency. I will say a lot of those sessions are extremely memorable, and I'm biting a tear on my right eye because I can remember the pulls I had entering the gym floor. I trained at Penn State Beaver, which is a satellite school of actual Penn State, meaning I basically got a private gym to transmutate me dealing with the loss of my first puppy, right? He was around a year. It eventually got to a point where I got to have the experience of going to the vet and watching the vet put my dog down, which in my opinion, could be karmically related to me. However, he definitely wasn't the healthiest when we got him. We got him and he was throwing up. He was sick. He was always drinking water, but I definitely pushed him over the edge, trying to build status, whatever the fuck that is, off making him a bigger dog along with me. The paradox I had inside my head during the time that you could say is a godlike moment of me self-reflecting and coming to an epiphany is that, oh, you're abusing all these chemicals. This is going to be you, Ryan. This is going to be you unless you change your ways, unless you're more strategic. And that's how I always viewed it. And I had to have that stamp implanted in me. And I changed everything about how I was doing after Bane. Everything. Everything was much more safely calculated. I wouldn't randomly drink research chemicals or take whatever stacked with whatever all the time. I got way more calculated after that. It was a forced adaptation. When I was in the vet's office and I watched him go, I still hold that in my heart this day. And every time someone rips at my heart, there's nothing that can come close to that at that age, right? Nothing in my mind. Because the joy he originally brought me cannot be replaced. Your first dog's impact on you cannot be replaced. So that is what it is, bending a mania. So as you see this tear come down my cheek, are you saying I'm unstable bipolar, or I've already dealt with and transmutated extreme situations before that I pull on and take to the gym and turn into something good rather than going off the deep end in something bad? I don't think me talking about this to someone to be like, is going to do anything other than holding that heat in my heart for the things I did and moving forward and realizing the lesson it taught. And that's one of those things where you need to realize what the gym is for, why I'm doing this part of my life at 28. The red nose, right? The red nose pit cries before he goes in the ring. Why? Because he's twisting it. He's twisting it. And that is what I see a lot of males have to do by themselves. You have to do that by yourself. The minute you master alchemy, aikido, chi, whatever the fuck you want to say, and you learn how to bend it, your life as a male becomes so much easier, and you view females in a completely different manner than your NPC pleb setup start. You're supposed to start in the NPC pleb setup and move to player. I'm showcasing a story that force adapted me more into a player. That death still sticks with me this day. I carry this dog tag every day. He can't be touched in my heart. He can't. He can't. Nobody can touch him in my heart. I had to watch him go. I had to take the blame. I had to realize it was a mirror of the abuse of chemicals I was doing to myself recklessly. It was a lesson that still sticks with me today. And that is the energy I'm pulling into the gym when I go in the gym. And that's why I don't want to talk to anyone. No offense, during this time as I train, I picked a very private gym to do this rebuild in. I picked 2 gyms that are sentimental to me. And it's one of those things where if you don't learn how to bend and hold heat, I'm crying, this is heat. This is heat. If you don't learn how to do that, you will never reach your highest level of male in my mind, because women can detect that I've moved through multiple situations like that. And they are more willing to listen to me because they've known I bounce back. You're not a real hustler unless you bounce back. And when I got my first bounce back, it made it so much easier. And trust me, if you're in a situation like that, you just have to learn how to twist it. And I wouldn't look to other people unless you have someone you really trust. Someone you really trust. The more you learn to do that yourself as a male, the more you do 1 or 2 situations like that, every situation becomes easier after that. And you can always reason logically with yourself and move through it. What I don't like to see males do is they don't carry any heat, and then some sort of situation like I'm talking about happens and they have no heat, I'm looking at them logically without that holding, that twisting. The minute the tears come from my eyes pushing through, where are you going to get the energy to come through that? I went to the gym daily for hours trying to get through Bane, you know? He built a lot of that physique you saw. And a lot of that training is like, in that Penn State Beaver gym, it's so funny. A lot of that training is actually like me just like filming that day, and then the rest of the days were crazy training days. And that frequency stuck with me forever. He upgraded my frequency. He lives within me. He lives within me, right? I can pull on him whenever I want. And is that feminine? I'm going in my emotions to activate a pull like that, to push myself in the gym, or maybe not even the gym. Maybe you have to get something done and you're running out of sauce. You go back in your Pokédex and you go to your frequency data log of like, oh man, when I was dealing with Bane, my frequency was here. I already moved through that. I'm already past that. It's nothing now. It's nothing now. And you can pull from that for the current one you're facing. So I do believe there's like a real big divide between stoicism, which I'm also a fan of, especially in martial arts, and the bodybuilding style of emotion, where you're seeing me who's abused androgens for a very long time, and I'm also born out of gingers, that I have extremely fluctuating frequencies. And I'm showing you that I personally had to go into the feminine myself and learn how to twist that myself. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. And that was from a very young age. I had to figure that out. And as I learned over time that there's always a twist in the frequency, it became much easier for me to take extreme stress loads rather than looking to another male to hold my heat or looking to a female to dump on, right? My natural state is to internalize that and be a male and go in my own feminine and figure it out myself. And when you figure it out yourself for yourself and you don't tell anyone, it's just for you. It's just for you. And I feel like that's like the special thing of using the gym to get really angry. It's just a frequency. Just get in a really high frequency, go to that thing that's bothering you and start thinking through it, transmutating it, twisting it, and then you didn't have to explain it to anyone, and it's heat now. It's heat. You know, Bane can't be touched. It's heat. It's heat. I'm happy. I'm hyped, right? It's one of those things where I've always seen every time I've had to deal with that, and it's moved me to a point where I feel like every single obstacle I get to, I'm looking for the frequency of the pull for the next obstacle. And then I'm database logging that so I have multiple pulls to get through.